Hey everybody, a bit of a project that I've had in mind now for about a year. It involves this book, Future Shock by Alvin Toffler. I've got this book back when I was in my 20s. I have the whole book, the cover is worn off of it over the years. But it's a sort of futurist book. It's a book where Toffler has gathered together some of the writings and essays of sociologists, economists, and different other people who basically made predictions as to what the future of Western societies would look like. And he gathered them together in a book which was printed in 1971. Some of these predictions and theories go all the way back to the 50s. So it's very interesting as I've read bits and pieces of this book over time that this guy, some of the predictions in the book are spot on. Some of them need a little tweaking, but sadly enough, if this stuff is starting from the 1950s and they're already coming up with things like disposable everythings and stuff like that, there's a lot in here. And I got interested in making videos about this, and so here's one of these videos today. This video discusses chapter 4, page 245. I have a PDF of this entire book. In the PDF, it starts on page 129, and it's another essay excerpt from the book, however you wish to put it, referred to as Communes and Homosexual Daddies. I'm going to start reading this. I'm not going to read the whole entire thing, but I'm going to read the points that are very specific. So what I'm reading right here is the first big paragraph in the beginning. Quite a different alternative lies in the communal family. As transience increases the loneliness and alienation in society, we can anticipate increasing experimentation with various forms of group marriage. The banding together of several adults and children into a single family provides a kind of insurance against isolation. Even if one or two members of the household leave, the remaining members have one another. Communes are springing up modeled after those described by psychologist B.F. Skinner in Walden 2 and by novelist Robert Rimmer in the Herod Experiment and Proposition 31. In the latter work, Rimmer seriously proposes the legalization of a corporate family in which from 3 to 6 adults adopt a single name, live and raise children in common, and legally incorporate to obtain certain economic and tax advantages. So, layman's terms. Because of the ever-increasing isolation that we have currently in our society, which by 1950s and 70s standards was just beginning, the idea is that people, in order to avoid being lonely but still have children and have a better life, you're going to have 3 to 5 adults coming together, having children, or either one person already has children, and it's going to be basically it's a nice way of saying polygamy is going to become a standard. So you're going to have 2 guys and 1 female, 3 guys and 2 females, 2 guys and 3 females, however many number they put together, and they're all going to have kids and they're going to incorporate and all marry one another and stuff like that. That's happening right now. I mean, go on Reddit right now and you can see the polygamy boards where they talk about, hey, yeah, it's me, my wife, and my wife's boyfriend, or me, my wife, and my side piece / girlfriend, we all live together. It's crazy. They were predicting this back in 1950 and in 1970 when this book was printed in 1970. So that's kind of creepy. So yeah, if it does, it's coming to pass, but very slowly, because a lot of people don't like the idea. So now, there's some parts here where they say in Chicago, 250 adults and children already live together in a family-style monasticism under the auspices of a new, fast-going religious organization. So it's a cult. Yeah, it's a cult. That happens a lot. That was happening a lot back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You had these little commie hippie cults coming up. Okay, so here's something else very interesting. We shall, however, also see many more family, it's in quotations, units consisting of a single unmarried adult and one or more children. Oh boy. Mr. Toffler, you have no idea how right you were on that one. Nor will all of these adults be women. They are mostly now. It is already possible in some places for unmarried men to adopt children. In 1965, in Oregon, for example, a 38-year-old musician named Tony Piazza became the first unmarried man in that state and perhaps in the United States to be granted the right to adopt a baby. Courts are more readily granting custody to divorced fathers, too. Sorry, Mr. Toffler, you kind of got that one wrong, because that sure as shit ain't happening in the West. Let's see. In London, photographer Michael Cooper, married at 20 and divorced soon after, won the right to raise his infant son, thank God, and expressed an interest in adopting other children, observing that he did not particularly wish to remarry, but that he liked children. Oh, that doesn't sound good. But remember, this was written in the 70s, guys. So, Cooper mused aloud. I wish you could just ask beautiful women to have babies for you, or any woman you liked, or who had something you admired. Ideally, I'd like a big house full of children, all different colors, shapes, and sizes. Romantic, unmanly, perhaps, yet attitudes like these will widely be held by men in the future. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Two pressures that are even now softening up the culture, preparing it for the acceptance of the idea of child rearing by men. First, adoptable children are in oversupply in some places. Thus, in California, disc jockeys blare commercials. We have many wonderful babies of all races and nationalities waiting to bring love and happiness to the right families. Ooh, that's interesting. Extremely popular television shows, and I'm jumping to different parts. Extremely popular television shows in recent seasons have glamorized womanless households in which men scrub floors, cook, and most significantly raise children. My Three Sons, The Rifleman, Bonanza, and Bachelor Father are 4 examples. And I've watched all 4 of these shows. Yeah, there's a single father raising a son, or at least a son and a daughter. Now remember, this book was printed in 1970, reprinted in 1971, and reprinted one more year as well. So now what I'm about to read to you is printed in 1971. 1971. As homosexuality becomes more socially acceptable, we may even begin to find families based on homosexual marriages, with the partners adopting children. Whether these children would be of the same or opposite sex remains to be seen. But the rapidity with which homosexuality is winning respectability in the techno societies distinctly points in this direction. In Holland, not long ago, a Catholic priest married, it has the word married in quotations, 2 homosexuals, explaining to critics that they are among the faithful to be helped. Oh boy. England has rewritten its relevant legislation. Homosexual relations between consenting adults, I'm reiterating that again, are no longer considered a crime. And in the United States, a meeting of Episcopal clergymen concluded publicly that homosexuality might, under certain circumstances, be adjudged good. The day may also come when a court decides that a couple of stable, well-educated homosexuals might make decent, that's not in quotations, parents. Parents is in quotations. Okay. Oh boy. I want everybody to think on what I just read. Go back and listen to it again if you have to. But layman's terms speaking, what that paragraph just said is already happening here in the West. You have the Episcopalian Church, who has had several gay pastors who are female. Everybody knows about the Unitarian Universalist Church. We now know that currently the Catholic Church, especially over at the Vatican, has openly said homosexuality is okay, homosexual marriage is okay. Why are we not surprised on that? Because the Catholic Church. let's not lie to ourselves here. Let's not lie to ourselves here at all. And legislation, England has rewritten its relevant legislation. Homosexual relations between consenting adults is no longer considered a crime. This was done back in probably had to be done in the late 60s. So, oh boy, then that means the entirety of the whole pro-gay, gay rights movement over in England was a wash. There's no need for it. They already said that this was okay. Now we're going to go a little further. We might also see the gradual relaxation of bars against polygamy. Technically, we already have that if you count the Mormons. We already remember the Mormons, folks. You got one dude married to 3 to 4 women. The fundamentalist Mormons, anyway. Polygamous families exist even now, which is true, more widely than generally believed in the midst of normal society. Writer Ben Mearson, after visiting several such families in Utah, where polygamy is still regarded as an essential by certain Mormon fundamentalists, estimated that there are some 30,000 people living in underground family units of this type in the United States. I don't know about you guys, but I remember the Mormons. I can remember even as a kid they would talk that the Mormons had more. You had one guy with 4 or 5 wives, and then it was just accepted in Utah, and nobody said anything about it. But outside of Utah, I can't tell you. I have never met a polygamous family. Weird. Crazy. See here. Okay. As sexual attitudes loosen up, as property rights become less important because of rising affluence, the social repression of polygamy may come to be regarded as irrational. This shift may be facilitated by the very mobility that compels men to spend considerable time away from their present homes. The old male fantasy of the captain's paradise may become a reality for some, although it is likely that under such circumstances, the wives left behind will demand extramarital sexual rights. Yesterday's captain would hardly be considered this possibility. Tomorrow's may feel quite different about it. Okay. Still, another family form even now is springing up in our midst. A novel child-rearing unit called the egregiate family. A family based on relationship between divorced and remarried couples in which all the children become part of one big family. Though sociologists have paid little attention as yet to this phenomenon, it is already so prevalent that it formed the basis for the hilarious scene in the recent American movie Divorce American Style. We may expect aggregate families to take on increasing importance in the decades ahead. Okay, so what is this saying? Okay, this is basically what just about everybody from my generation already knows about, and you younger folks, you millennials, definitively know about. You live with your mom who remarried a guy and you didn't take on that guy's last name. Your dad remarried and has and now you have a stepmom. So you bounce between the two households all the time. And if there's more than one sibling, you and your siblings bounce back and forth between these two households, and everybody gets along, and everybody says, okay, we're going to raise these kids together, and there's going to be no arguments, no fussing and fighting over custody. So we already have that. This predicted that this would become the standard back in 1970s. Here we are now in 2022. So if we were to go by this book, 50 years later, he was right. But by the 1980s, this was becoming the norm. So 10 years later, he was right. Toffler was right. We now have that, and it's a standard. It's a standard. Let's just be upfront and honest. Let's see here, the last paragraph that I want to read. Childless marriage, professional parenthood, post-retirement child rearing, grandparents raising kids, corporate families, communes, geriatric group marriages, I don't know about that, Homosexual family units, yes. Polygamy, these then are a few of the family forms and practice with which innovative minorities will experiment in the decades ahead. Not all of us, however, will be willing to participate in such experimentation. What of the majority? All right, we're going to leave that there because we're on 15 minutes right here and right now. But Toffler was right. All of this was predicted back in the 70s when he wrote the book. We can say the predictions were put to paper. But some of this stuff goes back as far as the 50s. So by 1950, they were basically predicting the disillusion and fall of Western culture based around one thing that I hope all of you heard: the family. When the family is corrupted, when the family unit falls apart, the society starts to fall apart. Really scary thought. Really scary, scary thought. Now, I want to remind everybody, if you decide to look into this, in the book itself, it's on page 245, called Communes and Homosexual Daddies. Yep, I got the book right there, folks. I got the book right there. In the PDF that I have, it starts out on page 129. So, whichever one you choose to look at. But folks, I'm going to be reading more of this, and I'm going to have more videos about this as I find interesting things. And hopefully this will be a video series over time. I know it's not the most interesting thing on earth, but I find it very interesting that by 1950, between 1950 and 1970, people were making predictions that are coming true about our society. This book is almost freaking biblical. It's spooky. But all right, that's enough of me talking. Everybody have a good and blessed day, and take care. There will be more to these series over time. Thank you.